Why would you do that?
Because you are too slow.
You know, I actually had approximately the same reaction the first time I fell for that. Hello, Internet, I'm Ren, and today I want to talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 8, 4.5 Vulcans. This was an interesting episode in that it was a lot of fun to watch. I would say it's probably the funniest episode of the season by a pretty wide margin.
I mean, there is a lot of space, hence the name.
It had a lot of jokes that landed, and it did make me laugh quite a few times. But it also had one of the worst actual stories of the season, especially when you consider the full implications of it. Because there's a lot of lines that feel written quite carelessly, without much consideration for the impression that they give.
I was constantly reminded that I was logically the least Vulcan member present.
But let's get into it. This is going to be another one of my low-key, unscripted reviews, so it's just me, my notes, and my hyperfixation while we break down this episode. This video will also contain spoilers for Strange New Worlds up to this point, as well as potential spoilers for prior Trek series, so you have been warned. Ultimately, this episode does have another fairly simple premise, which in other episodes has been a little bit more successful. Unfortunately, it still manages to go off the rails. Basically, the Enterprise's shore leave is interrupted when some nearby pre-warp Vulcans need to be rescued from nuclear disaster.
The energy system needs to be fixed, or it will overload. A planet-wide nuclear meltdown.
The Enterprise is the only one close enough to help in time, but although they don't have warp, these Vulcan offshoots do have incredibly advanced scanning tech.
Any superficial disguise would be instantly detected.
Which means a cosmetic Vulcan disguise isn't enough to blend in with them, and the crew will need to be altered to be biologically Vulcan. So, a handful of the crew basically take the serum from charades that turned human Spock Vulcan again.
Should be able to do the same for us, only in reverse.
And it works on everyone except for Pelia, much to her chagrin.
I wonder if the serum did not work on you because you're lanthanite.
And they're ready to go, so we get this silly slow-mo shot of them walking down the corridor, and they ask Scotty to beam them down. Notably in the rudest way possible to Spock.
4.5 Vulcans to beam down. Energize.
Who fills in for Pelia. I guess they can't detect a half Vulcan with their scanning technology because reasons. The actual mission happens off-screen and very quickly, like in a matter of seconds.
We have completed the mission. You may return us to Enterprise.
Thought this would be a bit more exciting.
The crew returns, bragging about their superior Vulcan efficiency.
My communication style has never been so efficient.
And unfortunately, the serum doesn't seem to be wearing off, and they're stuck as Vulcans.
It appears that we will remain Vulcans indefinitely.
So we follow La'an, Uhura, Pike, and Chapel as they experiment with their new Vulcan abilities and personalities. And again, if you turn your brain off, this episode is actually a lot of fun. The jokes are genuinely really funny.
You don't know what this is, yes?
All of the scenarios and shenanigans are quite entertaining.
Right, I'm sorry, I just thought we could wing it.
It is not ideal to wing a first date.
I won't say this episode is boring by any means, because it isn't. It is entertaining television. But as a Star Trek episode, it has major problems. Not the least of which is that they're all terrible people as Vulcans. Like, universally awful.
The room is far too cluttered. The kitchen is insufficiently clean. And the smell in here is far too strong.
They're also incredibly, consistently racist to Spock. Like, from the second they become Vulcans, and it doesn't stop.
Spock is only half Vulcan, whereas the four of us
Are fully Vulcan. Is that not logical?
And that kind of leads to the implication that despite all of them knowing Spock and considering him a friend, being Vulcan is enough to make them horribly racist towards him. And humans generally. Pike is probably the worst offender as he makes a big fuss about the human smell in his quarters as he and Batel are planning to host Vice Admiral Pasalk, her boss from Starfleet Judicial, because she wants to beg for her job back.
Very unpleasant to Vulcans. Better to remove them than to try to get Pasalk to tolerate the odor.
He also accuses Spock's half-human smell of being bad enough to ruin his cooking.
Captain Pike told me my half-human aroma was compromising his cooking and barred me from his quarters.
Which does lead to some questions about how Spock blended in on that planet. Like, did they just think he was a particularly stinky Vulcan? I mean, they haven't been exposed to humans. It's just interesting. Pike and Pasalk bond over the Vulcan cuisine that he's prepared.
It was not until I acquired my Vulcan palate that I fully understood the diabolical nature of salt.
And then he tries to sabotage Batel's attempt to get her job back.
She may never make a full recovery.
But it is adequate enough to do my job.
Resulting in him justifiably getting yelled at by Batel.
Listen up, ears! You do not get to decide my fate.
She also really lays into Vice Admiral Pasalk.
People are not algorithms, Admiral. You think your logic makes you impartial? It doesn't.
And I'm not gonna lie, I've never liked her more. It's really fun.
Your sorbet sucks. Now get out.
But Pike also just sucks even more at running the Enterprise now. He institutes these totally bizarre shift changes.
Instead of day and night, you want officers alternating rotation every 42 minutes.
And eschews chairs, and is generally rude and horrible to everybody.
Yet I have made a logical choice. You have not.
Should I even bother trying to argue with you?
You would lose.
Which, I don't know, just, I guess is a Vulcan thing. Cool. His hair is also, like, out of control in this episode. Like, I get that it's a joke at this point, but oh my god.
You used to call Captain Pike the human with inappropriate hair.
I actually think it would have been funnier if they had restyled him and made him have the bowl cut. But considering we just saw a Vulcan captain of a starship 2 episodes ago, it's wild that Pike as a Vulcan is an even worse captain. Like, he's just terrible at his job. Meanwhile, Chapel is working on the cure, and a billion other science experiments.
That is over there. This is one of 5 additional experiments I've been running at the same time.
Because she's reveling in her Vulcan abilities, especially the need for less sleep.
The Vulcan mind has fewer constraints and does not require rest.
Unfortunately, she also just decides she doesn't want friends anymore, and so cuts ties with everybody.
What I am terminating is our friendship. I will be doing so with all of my personal relationships.
She also dumps Corby, though, which is pretty funny.
A relationship is illogical.
The time I spend with you is wasted on romance. Both of us should be focused on more important endeavors.
Also, is this line here just a self-insert by the writers because they're begging us to care about these romances?
Romance is important.
For humans, perhaps.
Is not working. And speaking of romances, Uhura has invited Beto to spend some time with her aboard the Enterprise.
Thank you for organizing my trip.
I recognize that you were incapable of organizing it for yourself.
But she's not thrilled with some of his human quirks and decides to convince him to allow her to mind meld away some of his more annoying qualities.
I recognize your desire for a sibling quarrel, but I will not be engaging at this time.
And when Ortegas finds out, she, again justifiably, yells at Uhura.
Nyota, what did you do?
I used a simple mind meld to temper his impulses. You brainwashed him into a Vulcan lapdog?
And seems to at least guilt trip her pretty successfully.
You know, you may think that this Vulcan Uhura is smarter, but if she can't see what makes my brother great, then she's an idiot.
But then we get to La'an, who, thanks to her augment DNA, has actually turned into a Romulan rather than a Vulcan. Or at least that's what's implied with this exchange between her and Pike.
On a mission I am not permitted to discuss, I too learned of a certain element of Vulcan history.
Which is admittedly also pretty funny.
Perhaps if we speak of it simultaneously. Romulans.
But the implication is that Romulans are just inherently, biologically, sneaky, devious, paranoid, and warlike.
There is so much uncontested space out there. Space that is merely there for the taking.
As La'an sneaks around trying to take over the ship.
I've discovered that this ship has a very serious problem. Not enough weapons.
And plots to start a war. And attempts to conscript Scotty and Kirk to help her.
Do not worry, I will fix that. And you both are going to help me.
Oh yeah, Kirk's here. He showed up to hang out with Sam for his shore leave, but Sam's already gone, so he decides to hang out with Scotty and La'an instead.
I have other friends on this ship. How about you? You want to join me for a drink?
Yeah, sure.
And let's invite La'an too.
They're quite alarmed by La'an's new goals and priorities.
Should we be concerned about her questions?
Should never break any rules, you know?
She just stole your pad.
And attempt to stop her. This results in Kirk getting his butt kicked, which is hilarious. And Scotty uses brains rather than brawn to subdue her with a booby trap on one of the consoles.
That button right there.
No, Scotty.
Just...
And his ass remains unkicked, which he does seem a bit smug about.
Did you rig a booby trap?
Oh, I don't want to make her angry.
This line did also make me laugh out loud.
Then you are not as stupid as him.
Well, yeah.
Clearly, Scotty still has a bit of a grudge from the Salat who ate its tail. But things heat up when Chapel cracks the serum, but the crewmen decide that none of them want to be transformed back into humans after all.
Turning back into humans would be illogical. We have chosen to remain Vulcans, permanently.
The remaining bridge crew basically just allows it because allegedly they're all in their right mind and they're not consenting to be turned back.
There's nothing physically or mentally wrong with Pike or any of them. and we can't force a serum on them.
This is kind of bonkers to me. Like, they clearly can replicate more of the Vulcan serum if they turn them back into humans, and they desperately want to re-Vulcan. So it's very low stakes to me to just forcibly turn them back, especially because the way they're behaving, they are demonstrably not in their right minds. And we get that confirmation after they turn back and are horrified by their behavior.
I did not make good choices.
I should go find Beto.
I should find everyone.
But this does result in the crew meeting in Pelia's quarters, which she's apparently modified to be impenetrable by scans.
It's better no one know what I do in my own time or at home or what.
Which is so on brand for her. I love that. I love that we get to see more of the quarters too. They are still my favorite quarters in like all of Star Trek. They are just so cozy and inviting and full of weird, quirky items.
These 42-minute shifts are killing me.
I do kind of wonder if it's actually going to come up again when the Vesda potentially escapes or takes over the ship and they need somewhere to communicate where it can't see them. So I am wondering if that's set up for that storyline. Spock and Una ultimately decide to consult a Katra expert who happens to be her ex, who lives nearby.
Things ended badly.
Definitely not.
So then what is the problem?
Chemistry. Too much of it.
So that they can talk to the crewmen without the Vulcan filter and see if the human part of them wants to change back. We also find out that this is why Una has been cagey about not wanting to take shore leave throughout the episode.
You're avoiding something on Planet T3? Or someone?
I didn't. No one is someone there.
Because she and this Vulcan, whose name is Doug and is played by Patton Oswalt, apparently have like out-of-this-world chemistry.
What a pleasure to receive your message. It has been far too long.
Far too long.
Una tries to keep the sparks from flying by pretending to be married to Spock.
Spock is my husband. We got married and we're in love and we got married and he has Alerpa.
And even lying about having children with him.
I lose sleep, dreaming of you.
We have 2 kids.
2?
2?
Spock tries to play along, but Doug isn't falling for it.
But you are not wed, are you?
No, we are not.
As a side note, I love that Doug and apparently several of his family members have human names because their family's just into that.
Perhaps you've come across my sister, Susan, or my cousin, Pete.
It's a lot of fun, the jokes are great, and of course the chemistry really is there between Doug and Una.
This is Doug. He's a genius artist and a mathematician and a wonderful gardener.
Patton Oswalt is a ton of fun in the role, and he's the best Vulcan in the episode besides Spock, which is a relief because, again, all of our other Vulcans are just terrible people. Pasalk arguably included, but meh. And Doug is very impressed that Spock is able to lie, which is another fun detail.
Your ability to fully participate in a lie the way you did, it is extraordinary.
Turf nightmare J.K. Rowling notwithstanding, it is hard not to associate him with kind of an Arthur Weasley-type character because he seems to be fascinated by human culture. Spock convinces Doug to help them out with the whole Katra thing.
What I would give to be half the human you are.
And off-screen, everyone but La'an is changed back.
We were awful.
We're all Vulcans, monsters.
They all have the rude awakening of realizing just how poorly they've behaved and how many bridges they have potentially burnt, and so they all run off to problem solve.
I did not make good choices.
I should go find Beto.
I should find everyone.
Meanwhile, Spock goes into La'an's mind to communicate with her human self.
The others gave up being Vulcans. That is so stupid.
She starts off by kicking his butt, but they end up slowly turning from fighting into dancing. Although I do wish there had been more of like a moment of catharsis where we see her switch or decide, and then she's just like, okay, yeah, human me.
Change me back.
Which is, you know, fine, I guess, but okay. But also during this bit, Spock tells La'an that the reason she turned into like an aggressive, weird version of a Vulcan, a Romulan,
Being Vulcan affected you differently. You are aggressive, paranoid, suspicious.
is because of her augment DNA, and specifically her relationship to Khan.
I believe it is part of your core. You are part human, but also part augment, a relative of Khan and ensue.
Which just seems bizarre, and like it's going to create another complex for La'an regarding her ancestry. Like, I just don't get it. It also implies that, again, there's something inherently violent and bad in the DNA of augments that makes them worse than other people. It's just so strange for a Star Trek episode. But then we get to see the apology tour. Batel is still frosty with Pike. Until Pasalk calls to offer her job back. Or rather, his job, because he's planning to retire soon.
I'm retiring at the end of this year, and I would like you
to be my replacement?
I guess screaming at your immediate superior demonstrates the necessary temperament for a judicial appointment in Starfleet.
When confronted this evening, you confidently exhibited a clear vision for the department.
As a lawyer, I would say that's interesting. Chapel apologizes to Spock and Corby with terrible soup.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because your soup is unsatisfactory.
Well, I'm so sorry.
And Uhura does some light groveling with Beto regarding the whole brainwashing thing.
I should have told you what was bugging me, but not so I could convince you to be different.
Although he takes it pretty well, all things considered. It is somewhat softened by the fact that this got Erica to be nice to him.
You made Erica nicer to me than she's ever been in my entire life. Even when I was a baby.
And Una and La'an debrief about her whole warmongering, ship-stealing madness.
I'm sorry I beat up James Kirk and tried to take over the ship and start a war.
And as punishment, Una makes her explain why she was so weird with Spock at the start of the episode.
Is the seat taken?
Of course, you can't.
You can't sit.
You can't sit with us!
And it's because Spock left a pair of clean socks in one of La'an's drawers, and it made her freak out about how serious the relationship is getting.
Wait, is that where we are now? Who we are? Draw people.
Una then answers by saying that she once stole a shuttle to go meet up with Doug.
What would you say if I told you I once stole a shuttle to rendezvous with someone?
And we see that she's all dressed up for a date with him, and they kind of ride off into the sunset, which is really cute.
Don't wait up.
Like, they actually do have good chemistry. They're pretty cute together. Although I'll never get over how unhinged horny Una is. Spock manages to be the one who witnesses all the weirdest sides of Una, honestly. Because this isn't the first time she's done something truly strange in his presence.
I'm very well acquainted too with matters mathematical. I understand equations both as simple and quadratical.
So yeah, overall, this episode was genuinely really funny. I absolutely adored the post-credit scene where Spock is trying to teach Doug how to human.
Pull on this finger.
That is correct. And then flatulence.
There are so many good jokes there.
Give me 5.
And I laughed out loud multiple times.
Isn't. I have achieved it.
Unfortunately, there's this very strange undercurrent of bioessentialism running through the episode, and it's just a weird commentary on and representation of Vulcans and Vulcan culture, which is also somehow like biologically ingrained when they transform. And it just felt very out of place in Star Trek.
Spock is only half Vulcan, whereas the 4 of us
are fully Vulcan.
Like, the amount of racism they direct to Spock and humans in general is pretty bad.
This experience took me back to childhood. I've been left out by Vulcans many times.
And then there's all this other weird bioessentialist racism towards the augments that we as the audience can't help but pick up on. And the extent of the personality shift that they experience when they go from human to Vulcan is just kind of bizarre and inexplicable, especially because in Charades, when Spock went Vulcan to human, he didn't suddenly become a terrible, terrible human being.
Aye, aye, Captain.
He was still fundamentally Spock, just with slightly different human attributes.
Don't test me, Kirk! I will break you! Clean it up.
And so that's more what I would have expected to see with the crewmen as Vulcans, is themselves, but with Vulcan attributes. Instead, it felt like they were all just acting totally out of character, and again, being terrible just for plot.
This is a time for dining, not business.
She never was able to read a room.
It didn't make sense. It's also hard not to be bitter about the missed opportunity of not 1, but 2 strange new worlds we don't actually get to see because we confine the Vulcans to the ship for shore leave. And so it's just hijinks aboard the Enterprise, which is fine, but it really does kind of leave the season feeling like, oops, all filler. Like, I would have actually enjoyed seeing the mission because the crew adapting to a pre-warp Vulcan culture while also adapting to their new Vulcan personalities and abilities would have actually been really interesting and kind of a fun spin on Who Watches the Watchers, which is a classic TNG episode where Riker and Deanna basically cosplay as proto-Vulcans to deal with a situation at a research station. And here we had a lot of the same building blocks in the general description of the mission, but again, we don't get to see it because these Vulcans are so magically efficient, they're just able to take care of it in mere seconds.
Already?
Enterprise, the energy system is now repaired.
The level of competence in everything except for interpersonal stuff honestly makes it baffling that Vulcans want to have anything to do with humans at all. You'd think they would slow them down so much they wouldn't consider an alliance with them.
That is merely an average. Intelligent humans read closer to 300 words.
But that is so slow.
It's just strange, and it's kind of incompatible with what we've actually seen from Vulcan crew members in various Star Trek series. Like, Tuvok is definitely especially competent, but he's not able to complete a mission that would take the rest of the crew hours in mere minutes. It makes no sense. We also get not one, but 5.5 romance storylines in this episode. We've got Spock and La'an. We've got Kirk and La'an-ish. That's the half.
Oh, and let's invite La'an too.
Then we've got Chapel and Corby.
You're breaking up with me?
Yes.
What?
Pike and Batel. Una and Doug.
Maybe I could get away for an afternoon.
And Uhura and Beto. And honestly, it just feels like a little too much, although each storyline is short enough that it doesn't feel that bogged down. But when you think about it, that is just a ton of romance storylines to pack into one episode. Kirk doesn't really have a reason to be here besides the love triangle, although I do like him bonding with Scotty.
No, Mrs. Scott. We make a pretty good team.
Okay, so just a few miscellaneous thoughts. Carol Kane is so fun in this episode as the comic relief.
The energy source is functioning perfectly.
He's not upset.
They're making me look bad.
I absolutely love her, and it's interesting that high fives come up more than once in the episode. La'an and Uhura are crazy hot as Vulcans. I also just generally love the costuming in this episode. Well, Pike's hair aside, it looks bad and silly. And it is kind of a missed opportunity to try a different hairstyle on him, but whatever. That said, one of my favorite little nuggets we get from the post-credit scene is Spock seems to be a horror fan.
And humans view these for the express purpose of being scared?
Yes, they are horror movies.
Because his assessment of the quality of horror movies was correct.
Are the movies horrible?
Yes. No. Sometimes.
So, overall, I had a good time with this episode, but when I think about it, I'm mad about it. I think it's a terrible episode of Star Trek, but I do think it's a fun and entertaining episode of TV, and it's kind of hard for me to reconcile those two positions in my brain, because it's funny. I laughed a lot watching this episode. There were quite a few bits that I really, really enjoyed. And yet that's contrasted with all of these really problematic messages, both in the subtext and the actual text of the episode. So I'm not surprised if a lot of people really hate this one. I also won't be surprised if a lot of people really like this one. I think this is going to be an extremely polarizing episode of Trek moving forward. But that's all I have for you for now. What did you think of this episode? Which joke was your favorite? Are you as sick as I am of the romance storylines, or are you totally here for it? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos. See you next time. Wiedersehen.